Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Brook Hiddink. I am the founder of the High Ticket E-commerce Incubator with David Mendez, and today we have two of our actually newly hired coaches, Jack and Joel Davies, but they actually joined the program in early November. Jack and Joel, do you want to introduce yourself, just maybe where you're from, how long you've been doing High Ticket E-com, just general introduction of yourselves?
Yeah, so I'm Joel, obviously, and I've been in high ticket ecom since basically December 21. Went through a number of courses before I came into Brooks. I'm from Melbourne, Australia, and as is Jack, who's my brother. He'll introduce himself now.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jack. I'm from Melbourne, Australia. So I've been in high ticket ecom for about 9 to 10 months now. So we've been in Brooks course, obviously, for about 3 to 4 of that, and previously done a bit of drop shipping as well in the past through Facebook and things like that.
So how, that's interesting, Jack. So I guess first of all, what is the main differences you found between doing like traditional like low ticket stuff, it sounds like you're doing before, and high ticket? Like how, did you have any success in low ticket, or why did you transition to high ticket out of that?
Yeah, I had a little bit of a success in low ticket. So I did enough on that to be able to, go out on my own. But I think the main differences I found is it's much quicker to get moving in low ticket. Like you can get started very quickly,
Yeah.
but it does go up and down a lot. With high ticket, it's much more of a hump initially. There's a lot more work to do on the initial stages, but it definitely evens out on the work once you kind of set up your store, got your structure in place, and then things just tick over daily. You don't have to worry about the ups and downs and trying to make sure that you're staying at a reasonably high level like you are on low ticket. You once you get set, you can develop processes and just ride those out.
Yeah. I found like low ticket's more of a, you can make money, but it's more of a skill. Like it seems to me like it's not, it seems like it's just a matter of time until people realize you're selling absolute shit products and you get bad reviews, and
Yeah.
then you kind of have to just start from scratch again. Where high ticket, you're actually selling good stuff, so you can actually build a business that lasts.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
can piggyback off the well-known brands sort of image and things like that, and their quality that they come from multi-million dollar budgets that initially that you just can't achieve at your early stages to make those quality products. So you're kind of like conveying that to the customer about their reputation and things like that. But the fact of your offering being unique to other stores is where you really find your difference.
Yeah. And yeah, as you mentioned, it's definitely a lot more work in high ticket to get started. So you mentioned you've been at it for 9 months. We've been working together for 3 to 4 now, I believe.
Yeah.
So the first few that you mentioned, you did some other courses and stuff, Joel. How did you find it the first few months? Like, when was it that you started to see traction? Did you see any traction those first few months? What were like the biggest obstacles when you were getting started?
Is that in the previous courses you're talking about?
Yeah, the previous courses, or even just
Yeah.
starting in high ticket in general.
Yeah, so the main barrier was we were sort of deciding where to dropship. So we decided to dropship in the US because of the bigger market. So it was sort of determining how to actually set up a business inside the US, because we obviously had no experience in that sort of sense. We ran into several issues with that, trying to get an EIN. As everyone does, it becomes sort of a drawn-out process when it should be really easy. But when you've got no experience in it, obviously it's much harder. And then we had a massive like merchant center ban, 3 months of a merchant center ban. So basically that involved a lot of just researching in YouTube in order to get that unbanned. Getting suppliers on the start, calling them. Just the advice that we were given in those previous courses probably wasn't quite up to scratch. We'll touch on that later. But that was probably the main barriers, the merchant center ban, getting your business actually set up, and then niche selection and actually finding suppliers that actually give you a good margin. Because before when we're in different courses, when we're doing 20K a month in different courses, we were dealing with much smaller margins, much less brands that we had on our store, and we were also probably too in a market that was probably not going to be viable for us long term.
Yeah. And when you were in those previous courses and they were giving you instruction on picking a niche, what did that instruction look like? Because obviously you didn't end up in a good niche, and we can share it even here if you guys are comfortable with that, since you're not even in that niche anymore. But I think it was the garage niche, correct?
Yeah, yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So
What? Yeah, go ahead.
So basically, the advice that we were given is find things that are less competitive. We'd get on a couple of brands, we'd say that the CPCs are quite high. How do we actually sort of we get on a call and talk about ads and how we can sort of position ourselves to actually be profitable with some of these brands, or we'd go and get on another brand and sort of say, what do you think of this? And it'd just be, too saturated, too competitive. Find a brand that's not competitive. Oh, okay, how do I do that? I've investigated the whole of Google Shopping. I'll keep looking through Google Shopping. And it just sort of became very obvious to us that we weren't going to succeed in this program because of that advice. It sort of made no sense to us because we thought, okay, if it's too competitive, then why is there 35 stores bidding on this, and why are they all paying these CPCs? It must be profitable for them. Otherwise they wouldn't pay it. And that's when we sort of landed on your course, and you had some brands on your store that were basically the exact same brands that we were trying to compete for, that we were told are too competitive. And that was part of the reason that we signed up. We were like, okay, if this person's selling these exact products and in this competitive market, then we need to talk to this person, because we're being told that we can't sell these products.
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. So before you joined, was the highest month you had 20K, or did you have like a couple 20K months? What did your sales look like in the months before you joined?
Yep, 20K, 17K, 20K, 25K, 20K, like something like that.
And and then you joined November, and we actually started a new store in a brand new niche. So what have your sales looked like since joining with this new store from scratch?
Yeah, so we basically started in a brand new niche. We already had some existing suppliers that we carried over from our garage niche that were basically able to build our store around those suppliers. So we were able to, we started in November, back end of November. We were able to scale to 50K in December, 85K last month. And now I think this month so far, I mean, it's the 9th of February, and we've done 65K. So we're on track for 150, I think.
Yeah, between 150 and 2. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And Jack, I'll turn it over to you. What do you think has been the biggest differentiators for you guys in terms of like breaking points or like epiphanies, where what were the biggest needle movers that brought you from like that 2025 stagnance to now almost on pace for the 200K month?
Yeah, I think one thing we initially chatted to you about when we were trying to come up with the idea for a new store, and once we were about to start the supplier research, is kind of getting that idea of you can be successful in competitive niches, but you have to find brands that aren't too competitive or haven't been hit by some of the larger stores, or finding something that's a little bit untouched that you can do a different offering with. So we're based on that, what we ended up doing was just doing mass outreach, just reaching out to 200, 250 brands, trying to get as many as we could, just so that we could test and see what works for us. We've had some brands that have like roughly 8,000 monthly search, and they've given us like 40K sales in the last 20 days. And we've had other brands that only have like 1,900 monthly search, but we're the only people selling their main product, and we've sold about nearly 30K of that product in the last 30 days, I think, and they launched it in January. So
yeah,
I think
point.
finding
like, I think you made a good point there. Is like a lot of times people will see like demand is definitely important when you're looking for a brand. Like in the product type, you want there to be high demand for the product type and the brand, but there's not really a specific number where it's like, oh, like this is the number you need to have, because it's very dependent on the number of suppliers. Like if it's 3,000 but there's 50 people selling it, it's not going to be great. Where if you had 200 but you're the only one, you could still do very well. So do you guys find now that, I guess overall, you're probably much more versed in identifying good suppliers and like what to look for?
Yeah, I think definitely started to develop somewhat of a
formula. Yeah, I was just going to say, there also is no perfect science with it. Sometimes you can get them on and think that it's a great opportunity, and it's not. We've had that plenty of times. I guess you can sort of there is a better idea of identifying the ones that are definitely going to be saturated. But that doesn't mean you can't make money with them, and there is no sort of perfect science there. And that's something that we were sort of shying away from. We were always looking for something less competitive, and we're always looking for something, that had no dealers. But then at the cost of that is the fact that there's no demand for these products.
Yeah, and I think kind of like an underlying point that you made, Jack, is you got 250, 300 brands listed out, and you just closed as many as you could. So I think like a lot of times people, when they're starting a store, they'll get like 3 or 4 brands on, push like $10, $20 a day in ads, and be like, oh, it's not working. But I think there's a big difference. There's a big difference between like just the sheer volume that you have to do to give yourself the level of success you've had that quick. And it's not doing 2 or 3 brands. It's like you have to really do this at scale. and really like the only way, like as Joel said, there's not a perfect science to identifying good suppliers. The only perfect science is getting so many of them that there's going to be some good ones, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that. Yeah. It's about
And-
creating opportunities for yourself and then just feeling it out for yourself. And determining, because let's say for example someone might find let's say a fireplace brand, they might be super competitive, and I might get them on and I might spend $500 on ads and not convert. Someone with a more niche down store or a different angle might spend $200 and convert. It just depends on the market that you're in. It depends on your domain. It depends on it's entirely contextual is basically what I'm trying to say.
And that's another question people have is like, how do I go with a broad store or a niche store? So I have a very broad store. It's essentially just like a home store. But other people will have very niche stores. Like we have the guest speaker as well as just e-bikes for hunters. So you can have like the spectrum of very, very broad, very, very niche. And you can segment down by two ways, by demographic. So you can have like a fitness store where you sell to just athletes, or a fitness store to elderly people. Or you can segment down by product. So you could sell just treadmills or just home gym stuff. So why don't you guys say, like, first, when you were having struggles, how niche was your store on that spectrum between like very broad and very niche? And now that you've had success, is it the same? Did you niche up? Did you niche down? Or what would you recommend to yourselves at the beginning if you were picking a niche? Like, how broad or narrow would you recommend to go?
I think it's kind of picking a broad niche is what I would recommend. So like, if you're looking at starting a store, maybe something like, I think I gave the example the other day talking to someone, like outdoor backyard or something like that you could do. Like it's niche down enough, but it's broad enough to include so many different types of suppliers. So you can have some summer products, you can have some winter products, you can maintain consistency. There's enough in there, suppliers to kind of be able to test multiple brands and things like that, and also come up with offers and margin, have things like map as well. So that's definitely like one area you could go with. The fitness one you mentioned, and you just kind of getting creative in terms of thinking of like what's something that's broad enough to include multiple variations of products, but also a specific niche that you can show that you have some level of specialty in.
Yeah, that's a great point, because then you never run out of suppliers. And the thing with starting a little bit broader is if you have a broader niche, you can always figure out what works and then narrow down as you go. And I think that's what John did with the hunting e-bike stores. He had e-bikes, which is very competitive in the dropshipping space. Like lots of stores sell them, but then he found like a subset of those that worked very well and then dialed it on that. So I think that's something that many people could do, is if you went with a backyard store and then you're selling and your fire pit tables take off, then that can be your specialty. You can still sell their stuff, but you still have the one thing that really popped for you, and that's like what your brand's focused on.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think that's to your point where you're talking about like a brand popping as well. There's no real like, compared to low ticket dropshipping going back from before, there's no like winner product or anything like that. You don't have to test and test and test until you hit one product that just goes nuts. Like you can find something that shows a bit of hope and you can work on it until it eventually scales up, basically. And it's not just this initial pop of 15 extra hours that dies down to 1.75 within 5 to 6 weeks until you find a new creative and things like that.
Yeah, that's what people often ask, is like when people are starting high ticket from low ticket, they always say like, oh, like how many products do you test at once? It's like it's not really a thing. Like, I have like 8,000 products on my store. I'm not trying to test them individually one by one.
Yeah, we think in terms of brands, and sometimes that's 50 products.
Yeah.
I think
Joel,
go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead, man.
I was just saying, in terms of the appeal to high ticket as well, is let's say I was doing low ticket. It's all about creating the next trend, basically. Like it's not always, but you got if you want to be really successful, you got to create your own brand. But you're always working on creating content around that brand. Facebook ads, you're going to create, the next piece of content that's going to actually drive sales for you, whether it's through TikTok, Facebook, whatever. Whereas this kind of is more, the more you work on it, the more you can craft it, and the more it's better over a long period of time. So the more I work on my Google Ads account, the better my Google Ads account gets. If I was doing a low ticket Facebook ad campaign, the more I work on it for a little bit, it's going to get better, but then it's eventually just going to die down. I'm going to have to think of something completely new.
Yeah. And on that point, how in terms of advertising strategy, that's obviously a big component when you're starting out in high ticket. Obviously, over time, you want to become less and less reliant on ads in a year-over-year time frame. But what do you think the high ticket course that I have gave you guys in terms of ad strategies that you weren't doing to what you're doing now? Is it very similar? Is it much different? How much of a factor do you think that played in your ability to scale?
Yeah, so I do most of the ads. It was critical in terms of our growing our store. So it's a lot of people have the similar strategies where they're funneling, generic keywords with branded keywords. A lot of people have that same strategy, but yours, the way that we set it up with you guys, you're able to sort of separate the keywords using your funnel into a way that you're bidding the most on the keywords that you want to bid the most on, and you're not mixing that with non-transactional keywords, and that's probably the main difference that I've found, as well as some more advanced things like utilizing audiences correctly, even just I guess having that back and forth with you about it's often about validation. It's like, okay, I want to test this.
Yeah.
I think this is the right thing to do. Brook, is this the right thing to do? Yep, that's the right thing to do. Okay, I'm going to do this and it's going to work. So it's that as well, and you don't get that in other courses. I've been in 3 other high ticket courses, and it just that would never happen inside those courses.
And on that point, how important this is something that I really found is how important do you think the information is versus having that validation, accountability in coaching? So let's say I give you the information, everything you need to go, and you can go do it on your own, versus even just having someone to bounce questions off of accountability. How much do you think that fast tracks someone's success versus just trying to do it completely on their own?
Yeah, so you're saying an example of if you just didn't do any mentoring at all and you were just to give people information, that's versus
exactly
what you do
here's
currently.
Here's a course, free course, go through this and do it, versus the exact same course just with the mentoring component, the coaching.
Yeah, I think the success rate would plummet, because I speak with students daily now too, and it's just it's about they hit a roadblock, and we all hit roadblocks, and then they basically they ask us a question, we validate that for them because we've got the experience in doing that, and then it's okay, I'm going to do that and I'm moving on to the next thing. If you're not getting that validation, maybe you sit around for a couple of days and go, oh, how do I do this, oh, it's too hard,
second guess.
Yeah, it's second guessing. Just move on to the next thing. It's about speed, and if we're not moving at speed, we're just slowing down, obviously, but yeah, we're not going to progress at all.
I completely agree. I think it's that, and also the accountability component is just I think even investing in mentoring or coaching actually is a commitment to yourself, but then also having someone who's going to message you and be like, hey, did this get done? Hey,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
I think another element where we found it really helpful is kind of the ability to kind of apply what we've been told using the information, but also there's also little quirks and things like that we can bounce up here saying this didn't quite work the way it's said in this. What have we done wrong here? Or we were thinking of doing this instead. Would that also work? And you can say, nah, that's a rubbish idea, or it is. And you move on, and it happens because you don't sit there for 2 days wondering if this would work or not. Or you kind of yep, we'll try that then, or if not, that's a waste of time.
There's always nuances. You can give someone the perfect course with information, but there's always going to be nuance in each situation. Cool.
Yeah, we've definitely found that.
Well, you guys obviously have, you've seen amazing progress, so almost on pace for 150, 200K a month now. Do you guys have some goals for yourselves, either this year or the next couple years? Where do you want to take the store that you're working on right now?
Yeah, so
definitely we want to push this to. Sorry, you go ahead.
No, you go, Jack.
Each take a shot. Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, I think pushing this to 500K a month initially is the first goal. We have no real set goal in terms of when we want to exit or anything like that. We know eventually one day we probably will. The niche we're kind of working in is really growing and exploding over the next couple of years. So we may hold on to it for a little bit longer, but it depends how high we can push it. I mean, we think we could even push it to 7 figures maybe if we do things right, get a bit of luck, and keep applying things. We're only at probably about 40% of the products that we can upload to the site so far, so we've still got plenty of potential to keep testing things and that sort of thing. But yeah, definitely I think that 500K initially, and then let's see what we'll reset after that.
Any other comments, Joel, to add on to that?
Yeah, I think I'd reflect that. I mean, I think that you need to aim high. If you're aiming for 150 to 200K a month, that's totally fine. But the higher that you aim for, I mean, then if you fall short, it's still pretty good. If
Yeah.
we're aiming for 500k and we hit 450, I mean, I'm still going to be happy. So yeah, that's the goal, to hit 500k a month, and that's always been the goal.
Is that
And
is that this year, or do you have a time frame for that?
hopefully this year, we want to build out our SEO content, and we think that's going to help us grow to, I eventually want to get to the point where we're doing at least 50% from our SEO as well as 50% from our Google Ads. We've not touched SEO yet. So that's the goal as well, and that'll help us get to that sort of market a lot quicker, and hopefully in Q4 we can sort of hit that 400 mark.
Yeah, and naturally, usually most e-commerce niches overall have a big peak in Q4. So if you guys continue building up the product list, the supplier list until then, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see you hit 500k by the end of the year. So, good stuff, guys.
Well, hopefully.
And just one more question for each of you. So if someone's considering either they're maybe in low ticket right now and not seeing success, or they're in a job they don't like right now, looking to get into e-com to replace their income, what would you tell them about high ticket e-com, and would you recommend that they join the program that you've joined in November?
Yeah, so I think that if you're looking to make money online, I think that this is the most low risk, highest return and quickest return business model that you can have. Of course, you can go along the agency route, you can go along the route of copywriting. There's a number of other things that you can do, which are all good options, but those involve the skills of those particular positions. So you need to be able to actually be good at copywriting, you need to actually be good at running ads. With high ticket ecom, you can basically come in with a minimal amount of actual skills, and you can probably progress pretty quickly. I mean, when I started this, I didn't know anything about Google Ads. Now I'm getting 20 to 30 times ROAS on a number of brands within the high ticket ecom space. And then, of course, if you're going down that route and you do want to get into high ticket ecom, you won't find a better course in terms of the mentorship along with the content. And if you're going into other courses like I did, it's going to save you a lot of time getting to this course. If you look at how quickly we've progressed by just speaking with you each day, being able to integrate the things that you have on your store, and I think the transparency is another big thing. In a lot of other courses, there's a lot of gatekeeping. So there's a lot of I'll show you how to do it, but I'll show you 80% of it. I won't show you all of it. And then you're just completely fully transparent. It's like, okay, this is exactly how you do it. And that's not something that is within every course.
Yeah, and they made a good point. I think there's obviously many other business models you can pursue, and I think you're right in the sense that high ticket is probably the highest upside model with the lowest risk. I think if you don't include coaching and mentoring, if you were just going to start a business, I would say it's probably 1 to 2K to get going, and the upside is actually unlimited. Barbecue Guys, Wayfair is the upside of the business model. You can really grow it as big as you want, which is super unique. And I think it's also the valuable part is you learn so much. You learn Google Ads, Facebook ads, hiring, product market fit, market research. You learn some copywriting. So in anything you do down the line, you'll be completely set. You'll have that base knowledge and understanding of each of them, but not only each of them, but how they all fit together. So if you're going to if you're going to use someone Google Ads in the future and you're going to consult for Google Ads, you could look at their website and be like, yeah, this is what's wrong with Google Ads, but your conversion rate sucks because of this. You should try this because if your conversion rate sucks, you're not going to ever have good Google Ads. It's not going to work. So you kind of have that holistic framework of the whole e-com model from running the business.
Yeah, I think there's an entire amount of transferable skills to absolutely everything else. And of course, if you get to the point where you are getting to 300, 400k a month, like we hopefully are wanting to get to, you're going to start talking to some of the better people in the space in terms of CRO optimization. We'll start talking to some of those agencies, as well as SEO optimization, all of those sorts of things. So you're going to learn more about that as you grow. And of course, if you're joining Brook's course as well, we have access to a lot of experts in each space, from not only hiring to SEO as well as CRO. All of that sort of stuff is just invaluable.
Yeah. And Jack, what would you say overall, if someone's considering the course, either they're doing low ticket and considering high ticket or just starting from scratch, what would you say that they would learn the most and take the most value from joining?
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing about high ticket is there's a higher probability of success when you do things properly. So even though some of the things you can get with low ticket is you can get lucky at times and hit a winning product and then it dies down and you don't know what to do because you've got lucky that first time. And it's not luck for everyone. It's just a very up and down strenuous process, whereas this kind of over time compounds, and you keep building and you keep building, and eventually you just hit a point where of critical mass, essentially, so where things start flowing for you. So it's basically, if you commit to it, you'll eventually be successful with it. Whereas the other forms, you're kind of relying on a little bit of elements of luck in the initial stages whilst you build up your skills, and hopefully your skills catch up. So even though there's a higher upfront cost and things like that, you are dealing with a higher level of probability in a less saturated sort of area.
Cool. Well, that's all I had today, guys, but thank you very much for joining. It's been a pleasure speaking with you both, and I'm sure whoever watches will take a ton of value. So that's all for now, but thanks a ton, guys. I'm just going to cut the recording.
Thanks, Brook.